Appreciate everybody being here. So we basically, I know yesterday I think technically was like our first start date, but we're still finishing up Winners Week this week. So we won't get to the meat of it till Saturday, and then really till next week. In my mind is when we'll actually crack it off. But just been really impressed with kind of where we're at right now. Got an older team, so they're easy to just throw new stuff at and pick up on stuff, which has been really good. So we're a little bit further ahead than we've been in the years previous. Everybody's healthy right now, and looking forward to getting this thing going.
When you look at just this team from last year to this year at the same time, completely different, but
Yeah.
what are some of the pieces that you feel like, okay, I got something to work with, even though there's a lot of new guys?
Yeah, I think obviously it starts with Dawson. Anytime you got a guy that you can play through, that's got experience. I think he's almost the leading returning scorer in the Big Ten. So once you have that piece, that's a huge piece. You go down the list of guys that are returning. With Mike Mitchell, a guy that's been in the system. Even KB, guy that's been in the system. Parker, a guy that's obviously been in the system. And then you kind of build from there. I think the one thing that benefited us with going in the portal with older guys is they've played college basketball, so we're not nearly doing as much teaching as we were last year. I mean, not even close, and that's why we're able to be ahead on both sides of the ball so much more right now.
What are you teaching the most to those seniors who've seen a lot of college basketball, but they haven't been here or the Big Ten?
Yeah, I mean, you got just the ins and outs of our system that you're still re-emphasizing. But honestly, a lot of it now is taking ownership. Like it's teaching leadership a little bit, teaching ownership, teaching how practice energy should be consistently. Those are stuff that all those guys have been through that they know. And what does a winning practice look like? What does championship practices look like? How do you stack them on top of each other? Because I think that's going to be a big part of the growth of this team is can we be as mature as our age and as the number of games we played. And I think if we can, then that's going to correlate to, hopefully some wins.
How would you compare it to previous years, bringing in the number of transfers? You said you have to teach less about
Yeah.
how to play, but having gone through that with the turnover each year
Yep.
with new guys, what are you fine-tuning and kind of teaching a culture as well?
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of year one because there are older. So, again, the teaching – You're not teaching the stuff that you would a traditional freshman. Like you're not teaching, concepts. They all know, for the most part, defensive rotations, even though they're a little bit different. So you're not teaching like the basics of that. You're not teaching necessarily spacing on offense because they kind of have an understanding of that. So you're able to skip forward a lot. And so now it's just getting them more comfortable in how we do things and how things should look with how we want to play. And I think, too, just with the leadership piece, it's like now all these guys have an opportunity to lead because they are older, and that's now the expectation. So, how a drill should look, how practice should look, how weight sessions should look, how everything that we do should look, and getting those guys to just own it more. I think that's going to be so key for what we do, and then being able to bring the young guys along because I do really like our two freshmen and being able to get those guys to rise up to the older classes level, I think will be big because, those guys are talented and I think depth, this year across the board, hopefully will be something that's a positive for us. And so, being able to not have any weak links.
Ben, after winning 19 games last year, winning an NIT game, how does that help with establishing what the standard is for the new guys coming in?
Yeah, no, good question. Big time. I think that was kind of the emphasis when we talked about with Winners Week this week a little bit was, the work of becoming a winner was established. And I don't want these guys to come here and not feel like they did win. To win 9 league games, to win 19 games, to get postseason in the NIT, and to win a game on the road, like there's a lot of winning that went into that. And so the returners, they need to view themselves like that. Like this is not a rebuild from that standpoint. And their mindset has to be that, has to reflect that. They got to carry themselves in everything they do as if we're building off last year, even though we're a new team, because that's exactly what we're doing. So to your point, the standard is to build off 19 wins, to build off 9 league wins. I mean, we talked about, even here, I think we've won 10 league games since like the 90s. I think it's maybe 3 times. I mean, somebody could check me on that. I think it's like 3 times. I mean, think about that. And we were 1 win away from doing that in year 3 last year. And so we've talked about, and we're going to emphasize more, just the number 10, because that is the standard. And so I want our guys to feel like we're going this way, because that's what our mindset has to be. So everything we're doing, it's not building anymore. Now it's trying to add on to what we've done, but that's a mentality, and you got to be able to have that.
Dawson fully cleared?
Fully cleared, yeah.
What does he look to add? He's been a veteran in this league.
Yeah, I think the big thing for him to help this team is just, again, it's across the board consistency. He's got to be a guy that you can pencil in and you know what you're going to get, and then adding that defensive piece to it, because he's such an underrated defensive player as far as just communication and can he be a true defensive anchor for our team? Verbally, he knows all of the stuff. Like he understands the game. His IQ has grown tremendously. So now can there be carryover with that? And then I think he's taking a lot of pride, in the defensive rebounding part of it. Helping us being able to end possessions. We've really emphasized that this year. Is I think we should be a much improved defensive team, and I think the big key to that is you got to end possessions. You got to get the defensive rebound, and so he's kind of take that upon himself. I think having Frank here, who's been a good offensive and defensive rebounder, has motivated him a little bit more, which is a good thing. But I think if you just look across the board, not to put undue pressure on him, but he's able to be a closer. He's able to be a guy where, you can look at the leaderboard on a number of categories in our league, and he should be right there. And I know he wants that. So, I think he's the most confident he's been. His body feels great. I mean, he looks like $1 million right now. So I'm just excited to see, where he can take it.
Is it true that you're viewing him, or at least some people are, as a wing? Or is that a little of a stretch?
A wing. You have to define a wing. Did he say that?
I think it was one of the Big Ten analysts had him as one of the best wings in the country.
I don't know if I wouldn't say that, no. And that's not a disrespect. That's not like saying he's not versatile and can play on the perimeter. But I think Dawson would tell you that's not, what he is. But I do think his shooting has really taken a step, and I think the next piece for him, like most guys that can shoot, is being selective and taking the ones, that you're ready to take and taking the ones that you can make, because that obviously helps percentages. The better shots you take when you're a good shooter, the more likely they're going to go in. But he's added, to his game from that standpoint, and I think the mid-range jumper he's added, and just, again, being more consistent with that. But no, as far as perimeter guys go, no, I would not put him in that category.
So maybe a better question is for the 5 for Dawson, and then kind of Frank and Trey.
Yeah. Yep. Frank, Trey, and I'll be honest. Obviously Fox is versatile, can play the 4 and the 5, and we have a kid Lincoln that's played well, and that's pushed guys. And it's funny, he transferred in Division II, and I'm sitting there the first week, and I'm like, man, how did this guy not play? And then you think about it, like he's at a disadvantage in Division II because everybody's small, so he's got no matchup. So there's a reason why he only played like 19 minutes a game, because most teams don't have somebody that he could guard defensively because everybody's small. So he comes here, and it's a much better fit because he's a true 5. So now you can play him. But he's been a really delight in practice. He's made guys better because he's long, he's crafty, he's a better athlete than you think, he's pretty skilled. Defensively, he's right up there in ball screen coverages because he can move his feet. Stuff he's done just athletically has really been a big surprise, and he's added depth. But, those other guys in their own way, again, are versatile. Like Dawson can play the 4, and then if we go small, quote unquote small, he can play the 5 for sure. There'll be times, because we got depth at the perimeter spot, where you could go really small. You could play Fox at the 5, and you could play 4 perimeters around him. And now you're looking at, all right, defensively, how are they going to match up with that? And so I'm excited to see, what we can do, because overall depth-wise, this is the most we've had where there's not like a big drop-off. I mean, that's why practices have been so competitive and why guys don't want to be hurt, guys don't want to be out because they know, you know, if you're missing out on reps, somebody's going to be hungry to take them. That's a capable player that can help us, and we haven't had that till now, and we got to find a way. I got to find a way to help us use that as our advantage.
Realistically, how many starters or guys that could finish the game do you have, like numbers wise?
I'm comfortable, honestly. God, we got so many new guys. I'm gonna mess up on a number. I will say, there's not a guy that you couldn't slide in with a mix of guys that could start. You know, we're gonna have a team where, depending on matchups, maybe you could have different lineups, and sometimes it's not what a guy did or didn't do. It could be just who we're going up against or what gives us the advantage. This.
90?
Oh yeah. I could easily. I mean, you could go 10, 11. Like there's groups of guys that you could put together all the way to 11, 12. That there's not, like, you're not seeing them out there and going like, oh my God, you know. Whereas in the past, we really couldn't say that. I think the freshmen have done a great job of like lifting their level of play because they've been forced to. Because we have such an older team, it's like sink or swim, and those guys are competitors. I think Caleb's done a great job coming here and adjusting to this level. So you can sprinkle in those guys with a mix of older guys, and again, it's not like you're out there looking like, oh my God, what's going on, which is a good thing. A good thing. I'm not saying we're going to do that a lot, but you got the ability to do it, and I think KB's taking a jump. You know, I think KB, he's the perfect example of when you just work and you just buy into the process of development, and you're at it every day and you're consistent with what you do, you're going to take a jump. And I think he's really taken a big jump, and I'm really hoping, and I'm pretty sure he's going to be able to help us, win some games this year.
Where does he make the most?
I think the biggest thing for him is being able to translate. He's always been good in workouts. Like, you watch KB work out and you're like, man. But there's a difference between, being able to work out and then carry that over to production. And some of that isn't his fault. Like, he hasn't had the reps or he hasn't had the game experience to have the confidence to do that. So some of it, I'm putting him at a disadvantage. But it's just nice to be able to see him be rewarded for, like, okay, you're working your butt off, and now in practice you're seeing that, and you're able to produce and impact practice and impact your team winning. And then with that comes confidence. So I think you got two things. You got him now feeling like, okay, the work I'm putting in, it's going towards something, and I'm seeing the benefits of it. And then also, because I'm seeing the benefits of it, like, I'm more confident. And he's still young. And I just told him, like, right now you just want to fight to get in there and be in the mix. And I think he's put himself in position to be in position, which is, I'm excited for it. You want a guy that works that hard and is about the right stuff to be rewarded, and he give him all the credit on that.
I was at the volleyball match last night. Before I walked in, there's students lined up around the corner to come in. I know you're doing a student event today. Like, how important is that group, for your atmosphere, and how important is it just to get the fans excited about this team early? Yeah,
no doubt. I mean, obviously, congrats to volleyball. They're having a monster year, and it's cool to hear that. Somebody told me that it was wrapped all the way around, which is awesome. I mean, I hope people realize how much of an impact not only the student section but just the overall attendance matters and makes. It's night and day. You look at, even in our league, some of the places where in the past you might have said, hey, you can go there and, it's not as tough. Like, you can't say that anymore. And it doesn't necessarily matter how big your place is. It matters is, like, how many people are there making the environment. People make the environment, right? It's not necessarily the optics or what it looks like. Like, it's the people in the building that make the environment. And this league, I mean, you look on the wall, this league's a monster. And you have to give yourself every advantage to advance or put yourself in position for postseason. The best way to do that is protect home court, and you can't do that alone. So, yeah, begging fans, students, they matter tremendously. And I think it goes along with, like, development of our program. Like, development of our fan base is just as important, and hopefully we're going to continue to grow that as we grow the program.
Step last year, you felt like?
I did. I really did. And it helps to win. Like, I'm not I'm not an idiot. Like, I know, but it's the old, what comes first, chicken or the egg? And, I just want them to know, like, we play every home game. It all matters at the end of the day, and especially when you get into league play. And so, I'm hoping we can spread that message. And I think winning helps in general. Like, I hope they go to the volleyball game and they feel that, like, they impacted that and how fun that is. And then that trickles down to going to soccer games, and supporting them. And then obviously football. And the more everybody wins, I just think, like, the morale of campus it's uplifting. And then people want to be part of winners and winning. So it just kind of trickles down.
What's a realistic expectation for Parker this year? I mean, you saw him get through a season fully healthy. You saw his confidence grow throughout the year. What's sort of your thoughts for him this year?
Yeah. Again, that was last year. That was the biggest, one of the bigger victories was just to get him, to that point where he could play, and then to be consistent with his minutes. I thought was really, really good, and just to build on that, I think. Obviously the older you get, it doesn't get easier with your body, as we all know. Like, it gets harder and there's more maintenance the older you get. But he's relentless with his upkeep, and he knows his routine. And so, if he can give us what he gave us last year, if he can give us more, obviously I'll take it. But I think for him, he knows his value here, and he knows now, confidence-wise, that he can make it through a whole year. I think that's half the battle with that, is that now there's no doubt anymore. Like, you look at him out there, when you make it through a whole year and you're in every game and you're playing whatever it was, 15 to 20 minutes, there's no second guessing. And so now I'm anxious to see, all right, with another year of good maintenance under your belt and that confidence and winning. And now it's your last go around for sure now. So there's nothing left in the tank. Honestly, that was on purpose, man. Like, there's so much I could go on a soapbox about the portal, but no, it's on purpose. It's like, you got to look at it, a couple ways. So when you lose guys, and I'm happy for Cam. Shoot, I was more excited than anybody. Did I necessarily know he was going to go after 1 year? Had no idea. Was it a possibility? Yeah. And as the year progressed, I started to tell staff, fellas, this is going to be realistic now. A couple of the other guys that left didn't necessarily know that was going to happen. So then when you got to replace production, and you got to replace, Pharrell, who was going to be a junior, who was probably going to be pretty good. Josh was going to be a junior. Brain was going to be a junior. You got to go, okay, we can't replace this with freshmen and sophomores. Well, then you got to think about, all right, how do you do that where you can still win? If financially you can't afford necessarily the best of the best, and you can just go pluck, another NBA type talent, then you got to think, all right, the next best thing that wins outside of talent in college basketball now is experience and age and being older. And so we combine that, and then my thought was, all right, if we're going to be old, then let's have old with urgency. Well, who has urgency? Guys who have one less year, right? And now, as a coach, selfishly, you don't have to worry about. I don't have to worry about. They ain't coming back, right? And I don't have to worry about them going to the portal. Like, they're done. And so there's urgency now, and they're going to be all in and invested. And so to me, it's kind of, for us, it's a good environment to have where you have, a Dawson, a really good player that you can put pieces around, but you've got an older, urgent group that they know in 7-8 months this thing's done. So, like, when I tell them every day matters and every day is one less day, like, that's real life. And so you're hoping that, like, that somehow translates to, on the court productivity. We're good? All right, thank you. What's that?